Well, happy to have such a wonderful opportunity tonight, giving an interpretation of the work we have done so far, and also the introduction of the Korea Polar Project, one of the flagship program, looking at the Amundsen Sea warming up. And also my special thanks to SSC, the chairs and co-chairs, and for giving me this chance, and to executive officer, and even greater gratitude goes to the Amundsen team for making it happen. That's right. Those are. Can is it hard to? Okay. Thank you. Well, there are so many involved in this project, so I just said the Amundsen team here. The, we have many domestic research groups and also international component displayed at the bottom of the screen here. Well, this is my favorite picture when I'm presenting, introducing my Amundsen project. This is so graphically vivid and eloquent, showing that the Western Antarctic is warming very rapidly as compared to the eastern side. There is some controversy over the numbers here, but this is the 60 years of a compilation of the observational data, which is the real data observed from the field ever since we started monitoring the Antarctic continent, which is 1950s. So one thing clear is that even there is some controversy over the numbers here, the most of the temperature rise has taken place during the last decade or two. And the Amundsen Sea is right here at the bullseye, at the center of the temperature rise. So, this talk is like why we chose Amundsen Sea and how we carried on the research and what we have found so far and where to go during the next near future. So this is why I chose Amundsen. And this is another line of evidence showing that this is from the satellite remote sensing, showing the the localized loss or gain of ice sheet, showing that the western part centered around the Amundsen Sea is losing a lot of ice mass during the past decade or two. And it's very much localized. If you look at the picture carefully, then there are places actually gaining ice mass. But however, clearly seen here is the Amundsen and Bellingshausen Sea area is the area of the most rapidly melting is taking place. Other lines of evidence, another research data from satellite studies. The one on the left shows you the temperature, the height change from the satellite altimetry, showing these red colors indicating the most rapid loss of the lowering of the ice sheet. And during the last 2003 to 2008, which means like 7 years of observation. And the one on the right panel is the grounding line retreat observed by satellite interferometry, which is looking at the seeing the unseeable. The bottom line, the grounding line that touches the seabed, glacier touches the seabed. We call it grounding line. And the grounding line is retreating here you see a few kilometers a year. The red indicates that more than 3 kilometers a year. So that was observed during the past 20 years. Whatever method, there are many so diverse methods involved in it, and there are many research groups working on it. Whatever they do, the message coming out from the study is the ice loss is widespread and is accelerated in recent years, and the record high. And the most recent message came out is irrevocable. So it sounds very doomed, right? And what happens to if the ice cap melt away completely from the Antarctic continent is the sea level rise of 60 meters. The average thickness of ice cap on the Antarctic continent is 2,500 meters. And if it melts completely, which I doubt will happen, then 60 meter sea level rise. So, well, this so far I showed you the the temperature rising and the impact on the sea ice, the ice cap of the Western Antarctic area. And this is somehow is explanation why that sort of things could happen in the Western Antarctic. This is from the 20 years observation data compiled. And these indicates the cold ocean's cold bottom water reservoir around the continent. And the numbers in red here indicates the shrinking rate, the decreasing, the thickness shrinking in terms of meter over 10 years, which means here, for example, in the Ross Sea area, is shrinking. The deep bottom water cold reservoir is shrinking, losing its thickness about 110 meters during the last 10 years. And the numbers here in the Weather Sea area is a little less as compared to the numbers in the south and the western part. And however, the total thickness of the cold bottom water in the Weather Sea area is much thicker, like 2,500 meters. However, the cold bottom water reservoir in this area is like somewhere around 500 meters or less than 1,000 meters. That means we are losing the the cold capacity, chilling the Antarctic continent. The capacity of chilling the Antarctic continent is shrinking because of the mass, the total mass of cold bottom water of the ocean is shrinking. There is a famous saying in China, in Chinese, Chinese saying that if you lose your lip, your teeth is going to shiver. Yeah? So if we lose the reservoir, something is going to happen in the continent. So the ocean thermal forcing is likely the most profound cause of the changes to the ice sheet and the subsequently sea level rise. And we have found Amundsen Sea circumpolar deep water is intruding into the continental shelf area, warming up the area and melting away the ice shelves. So the KOPRI Amundsen Project is designed to clarify how and why the Amundsen Sea warms up and global consequences, what is the global consequences in the future, and the impact, what is the impact of the warming on ecosystem and biogeochemical cycles. But to carry on that mission, to carry on that research questions, the KOPRI Amundsen Project had many research components in it, covering all those, from physics to ecosystem and biology and biogeochemistry things. It's a more, more like a complete natural science all mixed together in this project. Um, so the KOPRI Korea Polar Research Institute Amundsen Project features multidisciplinary, which means it covers all the natural science into this environmental science. And it has multiple level of observation covering from the satellite telemetry measurement through air, ocean, atmospheric chemistry into the ocean surface all the way down to ocean floor. And because it has many multiple work packages in it, we just can't afford the entire mission by ourselves. So we invited many domestic research groups and also leading international research groups also from US Rutgers, Swedish Gothenburg University, and UK British Antarctic Survey teams. And there are more to join from French L'Océan and US University of Rhode Island. And then there is a Norwegian team also from University of Bergen, which I will explain later. And also, since the ship moves, it has a long track departing from Korea all the way down to Christchurch, using as a gateway to Antarctic and Amundsen. And it goes down all the way to Amundsen. So it has a long track covering the temperate and tropical and open ocean and sea ice margin area, sea ice area, polynya, and all the way down to ice shelf edge, which is the end of the south, touching down at the Antarctic continent. And also we have a very, very valuable opportunity to accumulate valuable data obtained from the underway observations along the ship track. All right, this is the this shows the three field expedition stations and our activity compact into just one single picture. And the color-coded three lines of the different colors present cruise tracks along which stations are dispersed in the map. And at the mooring site, mooring is the kind of automatic recorders and scientific devices recording the seawater properties array, attach it to the cable so that we can deploy into deep water so that they can record the scientific data during over a stretched period of time, such as 1 or 2 years. And then we go back and retrieve those devices and download the data. So we have deployed an array of scientific devices that record the physical properties of a water mass, and so that we can figure how the water moves around and how the heat fluxes in and out. And sometimes we put the sediment trap, which collects the sinking particles from the surface originating from the photosynthesis activity. That means particulate organic carbon converted by the surface plankton, phytoplanktons, halfway eaten by the grazers and just transported by sinking to the inside of the ocean's interior, all the way down to the seabed and sedimentation. And that's for the biological, to examine the biological pump efficiencies, and also where the carbon sequestered in the sediment surface. All those kind of biogeochemical cycling studies are all here during the three expeditions so far. Do I need? No, I'm missing something. Okay. Well, when you look at okay, well, let me explain. This is a channel like a valley over the continental shelf area, where the relatively warm water creeps on the continental slope over the continental shelf area and into this area. There's close to the ice shelf. Okay. Now that's just the diagram. Now this is the real picture. This is how the study site really looks like. White is the sea ice in early February 2012. These are the sea ice, and this we call the ice-free area, Polynya. This is Dawson or Amundsen Polynya, and this is Pine Island Polynya we call. And the coastal line here that's not sea ice, that's the ice shelf stretched out from the Antarctic continental glacier. And this is the channel. Okay, this is the channel. Right, so the relatively warm water gets into the area and melt the sea ice, and this area is very productive in terms of the phytoplankton activity. Okay. And the Pine Island Polynya and the Amundsen Polynya is separated by the big chunk of the broken piece of glacier, which is probably more than 100 kilometers long from the continental ice here. So this is sort of iceberg, but because of the weight, it's just anchored there, can't move around. Okay. Now, by having followings are just a sampler of what we have found so far. This is achieved with the Swedish collaboration, and by having some mooring devices deployed at gatekeeping positions here and there, we were able to have the vertical profile of temperature of the water. It clearly shows that there is a warm water onto the continental shelf flowing into all the way down to south, melting the basal glacier, the base part of the glacier, the ice shelf area. Now this is the probably one part of that is shown by Anna, and this is the annual, the long-term recording of the temperature and salinity, so that we can somehow calculate the heat flux and mass in and out, salting and all those kind of balance sheet. And then probably this is the first step to understand how fast the temperature is rising in this area by looking at how much heat enters into the system and melts away the ice. And this is jointly published, done by UK BOSS team, and we found the temperature anomaly. Actually, there is a certain trend of cooling in recent years in Pine Island glacier area. By observing this by obtaining this data, that the surface cold water got thicker as compared to 2009, when we have a shallower, thinner surface water, cold water. So the data definitely tells us that in recent years, actually there was a cold season, and that was justified by the observed and simulated hydrography and circulation patterns compared between 2009 and 2012, telling us that the 2009 was the surface water was much warmer as compared to the surface water of 2012, and we were able to link this temperature anomaly to the wind stress, surface wind stress anomaly to the all the way up to the low latitude area, such as in Pacific. Now, another example of the study, the result, scientific output is this kind of energy and material flow between the compartment of ecosystem components. Well, believe it or not, probably more than 30 scientists worked on this to generate just one single slide of this. And then they worked, more than 30 scientists worked over 3 years, multiple years. So this shows that the primary production, 60% goes to the first consumer, and each compartment there is some kind of partitioning of the material, and how much is going to sedimentation, how much is going to dissolved organic carbon. Comparing these 2 years, when the phyoscistis, which is the major staple food of the consumers, was just a single cells, and that in 2012, which was the later stage, senescence stage of the phytoplankton bloom, the most of the cells are in the colony forms. So it's very, this is very complicated one. However, by looking at this kind of things for a long-term period, we should be able to monitor the ecosystem changes. And this is one example of how we can use a stable isotope to trace glacial meltwater input by looking at the helium. This is helium. Yeah, okay. This is helium saturation anomaly, because there is a difference of the helium concentrations in seawater and the freshwater, which is glacial meltwater. You can somehow calculate the melting of the mixing of the glacial meltwater with the seawater by looking at the helium saturation anomaly, and telling us that there is a huge glacial meltwater tongue in the middle of water, which is about 400 meter deep. And the sediment trap study, this is the trap result. And the blue line here is the percent coverage by the sea ice. So that means during the winter, it's almost completely covered, like 80% to 60%. The Polynya area is covered with the sea ice, and there is an opening, complete opening during the austral summer. And the gray bars are the primary production, the organic carbon production by photosynthesis, estimated by sea surface color, satellite telemetry. And this is the actual measurement of the particulate matter transported into deep ocean. Okay. Now, by analyzing all those the sediment trap method data quantitatively, we were able to generate this carbon cycle. Just for example, it's just a fate, how much of the carbon is made and how much is sequestered onto the sediment. This is the ice shelf area. Okay, this is the ice shelf area. It looks like this. This is a shelf, and the bottom part is melt away by the ocean, and the Aron was in the middle of the Polynya area. And this is a kind of cartoon showing you how this deep, relatively warm circumpolar deep water is getting into the Polynya area and melting the bottom base of the ice shelf and flowing out, following the surface like this. And at the center of Polynya, there was a 100 primary production, organic carbon was made by primary production. Then 97% is being released as a dissolved form and exported to outer Southern Ocean. And only 7% is captured by sediment trap. And if you calculate the sedimentation rate, probably less than 1/10 of that 3%, which means 0.3% of the carbon made from the surface of the ocean is only buried at the bottom of the polynya. So this is our plan for the cruise plan for the next coming season, 2015-2016. And these are the long-term, our business partners of the University of Gothenburg, British Antarctic Survey, and Rutgers, and gliders and fire. This is scientific equipment, and the French Road Sang team and University of Rhode Island is going to join us for the flux across the Antarctic Circumpolar Current over the Udenself reflector zone. And NOAA, again, they will give us some drifters to measure the surface water circulation in the area. And University of Bergen will join us for reinforcing the moorings in Amundsen Sea's shelf area. And the carbon flux sediment trap study will work together with the LDEO. And there is a talk going on between the Third Institute of Oceanography of China for the Circumantarctic greenhouse gases monitoring. We are taking the western part, and the Sualong of China is taking the eastern part. This is a future evolution. Well, we are definitely eager to employ new technologies, and we are going to install new research modules, and there will be more intimate interactions with the partners, and we are going to complement the national effort and we'll make a big contribution to SOOS. Thank you.